Welcome to Kids Recall. In today's video, we'll be going through the 2004 superhero movie, Spider-Man 2. It's time to recall. Let's get started. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The movie opens with a scene where Peter Parker comes late to work. He works as a pizza delivery guy, and his boss tells him that he needs to deliver pizza in the next 8 minutes, otherwise he will be fired. Parker, who needs the job, tries to give the pizza on time, but there's so much traffic on the road that he's stuck in that traffic. So he figures if he puts on his Spider-Man suit and flies over the building to deliver pizza, he'll be there on time. But he sees a few kids across the road with heavy traffic and tries to save them, and eventually he doesn't make it to the address on time, and his boss fires him. Peter Parker, 2 years after the events of the first Spider-Man movie, is still having trouble juggling his life as a regular college student and the Incredible Spider-Man. The events of the previous film set the stage for this new installment. Peter struggles to earn enough money as a freelance photographer at the Daily Bugle. He gets late there too and can't provide them with good photographs, so his boss at the newspaper agency also fires him for being late with the pictures. Peter also faces academic difficulties due to his Spider-Man duties. He thinks he needs to save everyone from trouble, but he ends up in danger. Peter's academic scores are getting worse, and he's failing his classes. His professors tell him to pay attention to the paper, and if he doesn't do good in that, he will fail. After a tiring day, Peter goes to his aunt's house to see how she's doing. There, he gets a surprise. It's his birthday, and his Aunt May and his friends Harry and Mary Jane arrange a party for Peter. Parker's relationship with his best friend Harry Osborn is not that good after Harry's father's death. Harry grieves against Spider-Man for the death of his father, Norman Osborn, also known as the Green Goblin, but he doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man. Harry still holds Spider-Man responsible for the end of Norman Osborn and asks Parker that if he ever gets to know who Spider-Man is, he should tell Harry. In return, he will do him a favor and help him meet Doctor Otto Octavius, a nuclear physicist. Peter is writing a paper on the doctor for his years of progressive work, but on the other hand, Peter and Mary still have feelings for each other, and after the party, they talk. Mary is devastated that Peter is always away from her, but Peter thinks he must keep a distance between himself and the woman he has spent his whole life loving. Mary Jane Watson, because he doesn't earn much in his Spider-Man secret, can hurt her. But this thing eventually breaks her heart. However, seeing Mary sad, Peter tells her that he'll come to see her play. She's a theater performer, and the next day, Peter gets ready to see Mary's play, but there's a crime scene. 2 police cars are chasing a robber, and Peter thinks he needs to solve the problem. He puts on his Spider-Man suit and he catches the robbers, and due to his Spider-Man emergency, he's late for the play and can't get inside. So he waits outside the theater for the play to finish so he can apologize to Mary. But as the play ends and Mary comes outside, Peter sees her kissing another man, which makes Peter very upset and he leaves the scene. A few days later, Harry, the director of Oscorp's Genetic and Scientific Research Division, is sponsoring a fusion power project led by Doctor Otto Octavius, a nuclear physicist. He takes Peter to meet the professor so he can work on his thesis report. Peter's physics professor, Dr. Kurt Connors, is also acquainted with Octavius, and as a result, Octavius becomes Peter's buddy and serves as a mentor to Peter. Octavius has the opinion that Peter is talented but unmotivated. Octavius's experiment is harmful, but he doesn't know it yet. The suit he makes for his experiment are equipped with a harness developed just for him. This harness connects to his brain and allows him to operate 4 robotic limbs, each of which has its kind of artificial intelligence. A power surge, which occurs as the Octavius is giving a public display of the invention, causes the fusion reactor to become unstable. The experiment showcases immense, powerful breakthrough of humankind. But it goes wrong, and the magnetic power is too powerful to handle, and it tries to sink into all the steel. Because Octavius refuses to turn off the machine, the insatiably reaches a certain point, which results in the death of Octavius's wife, Rosalie. Peter transforms into Spider-Man and ends the experiment, destroying Octavius's experimental machine. In the aftermath, it was discovered that Octavius's harness has been permanently attached to his spine, and the inhibitor chip that was supposed to stop the arms from affecting the scientist's mind was wiped off. Not long after that, a group of surgeons try to amputate Octavius's limbs to remove them from his body, but the amputated arms act in self-defense and murder all the doctors. After Octavius comes to and learns of the murders his arms have perpetuated, he flees the scene and takes refuge in an abandoned warehouse close to the airport. Octavius is persuaded by the components to go on with his study and to point the finger of guilt at Spider-Man for the difficulties in the earlier experiment that resulted in the death of his wife. At the same time, Peter's situation continues to deteriorate rapidly. He has no money and no job, and the major problem is that his aunt may be struggling. It comes to his attention that his cherished Aunt May is in danger of losing her home, and he realizes that he cannot assist her financially. Peter starts to suffer from momentary but frequent lapses in his abilities due to stress, and these losses occasionally put him in potentially life-threatening circumstances. One day, Peter and his aunt take a trip to the bank in the hopes of securing a fresh loan that would allow them to save May's home. Her request for the loan is denied by a condescending loan officer, and at the same moment, Octavius goes to the bank, intending to rob all of the money to keep working on his ongoing experiments. Looking at the situation, Peter changes into his identity of Spider-Man to combat this threat. But the superhero's abilities are unsteady. To make matters even more dire, Octavius makes Aunt May his hostage and climbs the building with his octopus steel arms, holding Aunt May as a prisoner. Peter goes after Octavius and asks him to surrender and leave her alone. And after a long fight, Spider-Man manages to rescue her. But Octavius successfully escapes with the money. Meanwhile, Mary Jane is enjoying her time on Broadway, where she's performing. Even though she still loves Peter, she's moved on with her life and is now in a relationship with astronaut John Jameson. The son of Peter's employer, J. Jonah Jameson, Peter's life is turned upside down when John and Mary Jane break the news of their engagement at a public event. Peter's shocked by the engagement news, and Mary tells him that she's tired of waiting for him and wants a man who can protect her and give her attention. She gets angry with him for missing her show and tells Peter that John has seen her play at least 5 times, and this means more to her, and that she cannot understand why Peter is so distant from her. On the other hand, Harry is also angry with Peter for choosing to side with Spider-Man. Harry is just frustrated that Spider-Man is the cause of his father's death, and all he can think of is taking revenge. That night, Peter discovers that he can no longer use his abilities due to the ongoing mental distress he's experiencing, due to his efforts to maintain a balance between his life as Peter and his life as Spider-Man. Peter decides to stop pretending to be Spider-Man and throws away his outfit in protest. Jonah receives the business from Brent Briscoe, the garbage man, who then frames it and hangs it on the wall of his workplace. Peter resumes his life as it was before the accident. He starts doing better in his college studies, both academically and in terms of his attendance. Peter sees Mary's play, and he makes an effort to make amends with Mary Jane, but she turns him down and tells him that she wants someone who will be there for her. He continues his goals. Peter tells May that he's to blame for Uncle Ben's passing, and when he is helping her pack the home in preparation for the sale by the bank. At first, May is completely distraught, but she gradually decides to forgive Peter. During that time, Peter worries about the rising rate of criminal activity in New York City, which he believes is still his duty to curb, continues to rise. But he can't do anything about it because he is weak and doesn't have the energy to produce his powers and spiderweb. Meanwhile, Doc Ock has finished constructing his reactor and needs one more thing. The reactor requires tritium, a rare metal serving as fuel for the reactor. He goes to Harry Osborn for it, and when Harry refuses to give it to him, he threatens to throw Harry from the balcony of the Osborn residence. In return for Spider-Man's capture, Harry makes a deal with Ock to provide him with what he needs. Octavius learns through Harry that Peter is familiar with the contact information for Spider-Man. After some time, Mary calls Peter and tells him she wants to meet him and invite him to her wedding. Peter in a cafe, Mary Jane confronts Peter at a coffee shop to find out whether he still loves her, but Peter reveals to her that he's moved on from their relationship and tells her that he can't be with her and that her fiancé John can better care for her. But Mary Jane just wants to be with Peter, so she tries to kiss him. Peter can now again sense danger, and his instinct alerts him to the impending threat. In the distance, he knows Doctor Octavius is coming, and he destroys the cafe to give Peter a message to find Spider-Man. So Peter gets angry and decides to fight. But Doc Ock kidnaps Mary Jane as part of his plan to trick Spider-Man into falling into his trap. Peter's abilities are restored entirely and he dons his costume, taking it back from an enraged Jameson. He challenges Doc Ock to a fight, first on top of a bell tower and later on top of a train. Spider-Man and Octavius engage in a combat as they fight over many cityscapes and atop the top of a moving subway train. Octavius destroys the train's brakes while the conflict is in progress, which requires Spider-Man to stop the speeding train and save the passengers. Spider-Man manages to save everyone while also exhausting himself. In addition to it, he momentarily removes his mask. The other travelers thank Peter for his deeds and swear they won't tell anyone who he is. After Octavius' return, Spider-Man is soon brought to submission despite his exhaustion and falls suit. Octavius brings Harry a restrained Spider-Man and takes the tritium from Harry's possession. Harry's ready to end the misery that has been his life and takes the mask off of Spider-Man. When Harry finds out that his closest friend Peter is his biggest adversary, he's stunned. Peter manages to break free of his restraints and explains to Harry that the situation involves more than just Harry's animosity towards Spider-Man. Harry leads Peter to the lair of Octavius, which is close to the waterfront. Peter discovers his hideout, but Octavius is aware of his existence, and thanks to Peter's arms, the two engage in a fight just as the moment when the reactor starts to pose a hazard to the city. Mary Jane is now held captive by the metal bindings around her, and even if Peter manages to overpower Octavius, he cannot halt the reactor at this moment, since the reaction is getting out of hand. Peter discloses his true identity to Octavius and begs the scientist for assistance to stop the chemical reaction. Octavius regains control of his own will, arms, and humanity, and decides to make the ultimate sacrifice to end the reactor by drowning it in the river. The Doctor knows he can't destroy the reactor, so he walks into the fire with his octopus metal arms to end the power of the reactor. The building collapses due to the reactor's power, and that's when Mary Jane realizes that Peter is Spider-Man. Peter carries Mary and flies off the building. Peter tells Mary Jane that he loves her. Still, he also adds that he'll never be able to be together because of the hazards that come with his being Spider-Man. If anything ever happened to Mary Jane because of him, he would be unable to forgive himself. After handing up Mary Jane to John safely, Peter then departs. Across town, Harry sees his late father, Norman Osborn, in a hanging mirror. The delusion demands that his son should murder Peter Parker and avenge his father's death. Harry refuses and shatters the mirror with a blade, exposing a hidden chamber holding the Green Goblin outfit, his battle gear, and the serum that gave him his extraordinary power. Mary Jane leaves her wedding and meets Peter at his apartment after the film, informing him that she has chosen to remain with him despite the danger. She persuades Peter to let her in a while, understanding the need for his vows by allowing him to react to an unexpected request for aid. She watches Spider-Man swing away, unsure. The end. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click that bell icon to get new movie recaps.